Book 4, Canto 1. The Legend of Campbell and Tellamond. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Morgan Scorpion. The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser, Book 4. The Legend of Campbell and Tellamond. Canto 1. Fair Britomart saves Amoret. Duessa discord breeds twixt Scudamore and Blandamour, their fight and warlike deeds. Of lovers' sad calamities of old, full many piteous stories do remain, but none more piteous ever was it told, than that of Amoret's heart-binding chain, and this of Florimell's unworthy pain, the dear compassion of whose bitter fit my softened heart so sorely doth constrain, that I with tears full oft do pity it, and oftentimes do wish it never had been writ. For from that time that Scudamore her brought in perilous fight, she never joyed day, a perilous fight when he with force her brought from 20 knights, that did him all assay, yet fairly well he did them all dismay. And with great glory both the shield of love, and eke the lady's self he brought away, whom having wedded as him did behove, a new unknowen mischief did from him remove. For that same vile enchanter Biziran, that very self same day that she was wedded, amidst the bridal feast, whilst every man surcharged with wine were heedless and ill-headed, all bent to mirth before the bride was bedded, brought in that mask of love which late was shown, and there the lady ill of friends besteaded, by way of sport, as oft in maskers is known, conveyed quite away to living wight unknown. 7 months he so her kept in bitter smart, because his sinful lust she would not serve, until such time as noble Britomart released her, that else was like to starve, through cruel knife that her dear heart did curve, and now she is with her upon the way, marching in lovely wise, that could deserve no spot of blame, though spite did oft assay to blot her with dishonour of so fair a prey. Yet should it be a pleasant tale to tell, the diverse usage and demeanour daint, that each to other made, as oft befell, for Amoret right fearful was and faint, lest she with blame her honour should attaint, that every word did tremble as she spake, and every look was coy and wondrous quaint, and every limb that touched her did quake, yet could she not but courteous countenance to her make. For well she wist, as true it was indeed, that her lives lord and patron of her health right well deserved as his dewful meed, her love, her service, and her utmost wealth. All is his justly, that all freely doth. Natheless her honour dearer than her life she sought to save, as thing reserved from stealth. Die she had liver with enchanter's knife, than to be false in love, professed a virgin wife. Thereto her fear was made so much the greater, through fine abusion of that Briton maid, who for to hide her feigned sex the better, and mask her wounded mind, both did and said full many things so doubtful to be weighed, that well she wist not what by them to guess, for otherwhiles to her she purpose made of love, and otherwhiles of lustfulness, that much she feared his mind would grow to some excess. His will she feared, for him she surely thought to be a man, such as indeed he seemed, and much the more by that he lately wrought, when her from deadly thraldom he redeemed, for which no service she too much esteemed. Yet dread of shame, and doubt of foul dishonour, made her not yield so much as due she deemed. Yet Britomart attended duly on her, as well became a knight, and did to her all honour. It so befell one evening that they came unto a castle, lodged there to be, where many a knight and many a lovely dame was then assembled, deeds of arms to see, amongst all which was none more fair than she, that many of them moved to eye her sore. The custom of that place was such, that he, which had no love nor leman there in store, should either win him one, or lie without the door. Amongst the rest there was a jolly knight, who being asked for his love, avowed that fairest Amoret was his by right, and offered that to justify aloud. The warlike virgin, seeing his so proud and boastful challenge, waxed inly wroth, but for the present did her anger shroud, and said, her love to lose she was full loth, but either he should neither of them have, or both. So forth they went, and both together gifted, but that fame younker foone was overthrowne, and made repent, that he had rashly lufted for thing unlawfull, that was not his owne. Yet fince he feemed valiant, though unknowne, She that no leffe was courteous then ftout, Caft out a falve, that both the cuftome fhone Were kept, and yet that night not locked out, That feemed full hard t'accord two things fo farre in doubt. The Senefchal was called to deeme the right whom fhe requir'd, That firft Faerie Amoret might be to her allow'd, As to a knight, that did her win and free from challenge fet, Which ftreight to her was yeelded without let. Then fince that ftrange knights love from him was quitted, She claim'd that to herfelfe as Ladies debt. He as a knight might juftly be admitted, So none fhould be fhut out, fith all of loves were fitted. With that her glistering helmet fhe unlaced, Which doft her golden lockes, that were upbound Still in a knot, unto her heeles down traced, And like a filken veile in compafle round, About her backe and all her body wound, Like as the fhining sky in fommers night, What time the dayes with fcorching heat abound, Is created all with lines of fiery light, That it prodigious feemes in common peoples fight. Such when thofe knights and ladies all about beheld her, All were with amazement smit, and every one Gan grow in fecret doubt of this and that, According to each wit. Some thought that some enchantment feigned it, Some that Bellona in that warlike wize To them appeared, with fhield and armour fit, Some that it was a maske of ftrange difguize. So diverfly each one did sundry doubts devize. But that young knight, which through her gentle deed Was to that goodly fellowfhip restored, 10,000 thanks did yeeld her for her meed, And doubly overcomen her adored. So did they all their former ftrife accord, And eke faire Amoret, now freed from feare, More franke affection did to her afford, And to her bed, which fhe was wont forbeare, Now freely drew, and found right fafe affuraunce there. Where all that night they of their loves did treat, And hard adventures twixt themfelves alone, That each the other gan with passion great, And griefull pity privately bemone. The morrow next, so foone as Titan fhone, They both uprofe, and to their wayes them dight. Long wandred they, yet never met with none, That to their wills could them direct aright, Or to them tidings tell, that mote their hearts delight. Lo thus they rode, till at the laft they spide Two armed knights, that toward them did pace, And each of them had riding by his fide A Lady, feeming in fo farre a fpace, But ladies none they were, albe in face And outward fhew faire femblance they did beare. For under maske of beauty and good grace, Vile treafon and foule falfhood hidden were, That mote to none but to the wary wize appeare. The one of them the falfe Duessa hight, That now had changed her former wonted hew, For fhe could don so many fhapes in fight, As ever could cameleon colours new. So could fhe forge all colours, fave the trew. The other no whit better was then fhe, But that fuch as fhe was, fhe plaine did fhew, Yet otherwife much worfe, if worfe might be, And daily more offenfive unto each degree. Her name was Arte, mother of debate, And all dissention, which doth daily grow Amongft fraile men, that many a publique ftate And many a private oft doth overthrow. Her falfe Duessa, who full well did know To be moft fit to trouble noble knights, Which hunt for honour, raifed from below Out of the dwellings of the damned fprites, Where fhe in darknefle waftes her curfed dayes and nights. Hard by the gates of hell her dwelling is, That whereas all the plagues and harmes abound, Which punifh wicked men that walke amiffe, It is a darkefome delve farre under ground, With thorns and barren brakes environed round, That none the fame may eafily outwin. Yet many wayes to enter may be found, But none to iffue forth when one is in. For discard harder is to end then to begin. And all within the riven walls were hung With ragged monuments of times forepaft, All which the fad effects of discord sung. There were rent robes, and broken sceptres placed, Altars defiled, and holy things defaced, Difhivered fpeares, and fhields y-torn in twain, Great cities ranfacked, and ftrong castles rast, Nations captived, and huge armies flaine. Of all which ruines there some reliques did remaine. There was the figne of antique Babylon, Of fatall Thebes, of Rome that reigned long, Of facred Salem, and sad Ilion, For memory of which on high there hong The golden apple, caufe of all their wrong, for which the 3 faire goddesses did strive. There also was the name of Nimrod strong, of Alexander, and his princes 5, which shared to them the spoils that he had got alive. And there the relics of the drunken fray, the which amongst the Lapithes befell, and of the bloody feast, which sent away so many Centaurs drunken souls to hell, that under great Alcides' fury fell, and of the dreadful discord, which did drive the noble Argonauts to outrage fell, that each of life sought others to deprive, all mindless of the golden fleece, which made them strive. And eke of private persons many mo, that were too long a work to count them all, some of sworn friends, that did their faith forgo, some of born brethren, proved unnatural, some of dear lovers, foes perpetual, witness their broken bands there be to seen, their girlands rent, their bars despoiled all, the monuments whereof their biding been, as plain as at the first, when they were fresh and green. Such was her house within, but all without the barren ground was full of wicked weeds, which she herself had sowen all about, now growen great, at first of little seeds, the seeds of evil words and factious deeds, which when to ripeness due they growen are, bring forth an infinite increase, that breeds tumultuous trouble and contentious jar, the which most often end in bloodshed and in war. And those same cursed seeds do also serve to her for bread, and yield her living food, for life it is to her when others starve, through mischievous debate and deadly feud, that she may suck their life, and drink their blood, with which she from her childhood had been fed. For she at first was born of hellish brood, and by infernal furies nourished, that by her monstrous shape might easily be read. Her face most foul and filthy was to see, with squinted eyes contrary ways intended, and loathly mouth, unmeet a mouth to be, that nought but gall and venom comprehended, and wicked words that God and man offended. Her lying tongue was in 2 parts divided, and both the parts did speak, and both contended, and as her tongue, so was her heart decided, that never thought one thing, but doubly still was guided. Alls as she double spake, so heard she double, with matchless ears deformed and distort, filled with false rumours and seditious trouble, bred in assemblies of the vulgar sort, that still are led with every light report. And as her ears, so eke her feet were odd, and much unlike, th' one long, the other short, and both misplaced, that when the one forward yode, the other back retired, and contrary trode. Likewise unequal were her handes twain, that one did reach, the other pushed away, that one did make, the other marred again, and sought to bring all things unto decay, whereby great riches gathered many a day, she in short space did often bring to nought, and their possessors often did dismay, for all her study was, and all her thought, how she might overthrow the things that concord wrought. So much her malice did her might surpass, that even the Almighty self she did malign, because to man so merciful he was, and unto all his creatures so benign, sith she herself was of his grace indign. For all this world's fair workmanship she tried, unto his last confusion to bring, and that great golden chain quite to divide, with which it blessed concord hath together tied. Such was that hag, which with Duessa rode, and serving her in her malicious use, to hurt good knights, was as it were her bawd, to sell her borrowed beauty to abuse. For though like withered tree that wanteth use, she old and crooked were, yet now of late, as fresh and fragrant as the flowre de luce, she was become, by change of her estate, and made full goodly joyaunce to her new found mate. Her mate he was a jolly youthful knight, that bore great sway in arms and chivalry, and was indeed a man of mickle might. His name was Blandamour, that did descry his fickle mind full of inconstancy, and now himself he fitted had right well with 2 companions of like quality, faithless Duessa and false Paridel, that whether were more false, full hard it is to tell. Now when this gallant with his goodly crew from far espied the famous Britomart, like knight adventurous in outward view, with his fair paragon, his conquests part, approaching nigh, eftsoons his wanton heart was tickled with delight, and jesting sayd: Lo, there Sir Paridel for your desert, good luck presents you with yond lovely mayd, for pity that you want a fellow for your aid. By that the lovely pair drew nigh to hond, whom when as Paridel more plaine beheld, albe in heart he like affection fond, yet mindful how he late by one was feld, that did thofe armes and that fame scutcheon wield. He had small lust to buy his love so deare, but answered, Sir, him wife I never held, that having once escaped perill neare, would afterwards afrefh the sleeping evill reare. The knight too late his manhood and his might I did affay, that me right dearely coft, nor list I for revenge provoke new fight, nor for light ladies love, that soone is loft, the hotspur youth so scorning to be croft. Take then to you this dame of mine, quoth he, and I without your perill or your coft will challenge yon same other for my fee. So forth he fiercely pricked, that one him scarce could see. The warlike Britonesse her soone addreft, and with such uncouth welcome did receive her feigned paramour, her forced guest, that being forced his saddle soone to leave, himself he did of his new love deceive, and made himself then sample of his folly. Which done, she passed forth, not taking leave, and left him now as sad, as whilome jolly, well warned to beware with whom he dared to dally. Which when his other company beheld, they to his succour ran with ready aide, and finding him unable once to weld, they reared him on horfebacke, and upstayd, till on his way they had him forth convayd. And all the way, with wondrous griefe of mind and shame, he shewed himself to be dismayd, more for the love which he had left behind, than that which he had to Sir Paridel refigned. Natheleffe he forth did march well as he might, and made good semblance to his company, dissembling his difease and evill plight, till that ere long they chanced to efpy two other knights, that towards them did ply with speedy courfe, as bent to charge them new, whom when as Blandamour approaching nigh, perceived to be such as they feemed in view, he was full woe, and gan his former griefe renew. For the one of them he perfectly descried to be Sir Scudamore, by that he bore the God of Love with wings displayed wide, whom mortally he hated evermore, both for his worth, that all men did adore, and eke because his love he won by right, which when he thought, it grieved him full fore, that through the bruises of his former fight, he now unable was to wreake his old despite. For thy he thus to Paridel bespake: Faire Sir, of friendship, let me now you pray, that as I late adventured for your sake, the hurts whereof me now from battell ftay, ye will me now with like good turne repay, and justify my caufe on yonder knight. Ah Sir, said Paridel, do not difmay your selfe for this, my selfe will for you fight, as ye have done for me, the left hand rubs the right. With that he put his spurs unto his steed, with speare in rest, and toward him did fare, like shaft out of a bow preventing speed. But Scudamore was shortly well aware of his approach, and gan himself prepare him to receive with entertainment meet. So furiously they met, that either bare the other down under the horses' feet, that what of them became, themselves did scarcely weet. As when two billowes in the Irish sounds, forcibly driven with contrary tides, do meet together, each abacke rebounds with roaring rage, and dashing on all sides, that filleth all the fea with foam, divides the doubtful current into diverse waves. So fell these two in spite of both their prides. But Scudamore himself did soon upraise, and mounting light his foe for lying long upbraids, who rolled on an heap lay still in swound, all careless of his taunt and bitter raile, till that the rest, him seeing lie on ground, ran hastily to weet what did him aile, where finding that the breath gan him to faile, with busy care they ftrove him to awake, and doffed his helmet, and undid his maile. So much they did, that at the last they brake his slumber, yet so mazed, that he nothing spake. Which when as Blandamour beheld, he said: False fayter, Scudamore, that hast by flight and foul advantage this good knight dismayd, a knight much better than thyself behight. Well falls it thee that I am not in plight this day, to wreake this damage by thee done. Such is thy wont, that still when any knight is weakened, then thou doest him overrun, so hast thou to thyself false honour often won. He little answered, but in manly heart his mighty indignation did forbeare, which was not yet so secret, but some part thereof did in his frowning face appeare, like as a gloomy cloud, the which doth beare an hideous storm, is by the northern blast quite overblowne, yet doth not pass so cleare, but that it all the sky doth overcast with darkness dread, and threatens all the world to rust. Our gentle knight then false Duessa said: Why do ye strive for ladies' love so sore, Whose chiefe desire is love and friendly aide Mongst gentle knights to nourish evermore? Ne be ye wroth, Sir Scudamore, therefore, That she your love list love another knight, Ne do yourself dislike a whit the more, For love is free, and led with self delight, Ne will enforced be with mafterdome or might. So false Duessa, but vile Arte thus: Both foolish knights, I can but laugh at both, That strive and storme with ftirre outrageous, For her that each of you alike doth loth, And loves another, with whom now she goth In lovely wise, and sleeps, and sports, and playes, Whileft both you here with many a cursed oath Sweare she is yours, and ftirre up bloody frayes To win a willow bough, whileft other weares the bayes. Vile hag, fays Scudamore, why dost thou lie, And falsely seeke a virtuous wight to shame? Fond knight, fayd fhe, the thing that with this eye I faw, Why should I doubt to tell the fame? Then tell, quoth Blandamour, and feare no blame, Tell what thou saw'st, maugre whoso it heares. I saw, quoth fhe, a ftranger knight, whofe name I wote not well, but in his shield he beares, That well I wote, the heads of many broken fpeares. I saw him have your Amoret at will, I saw him kiffe, I saw him her embrace, I saw him sleepe with her all night his fill, All many nights, and many by in place, That present were to testify the cafe. Which when as Scudamore did heare, his heart Was thrilled with inward griefe, as when in chace The Parthian ftrikes a stag with fhivering dart, The beaft astonifhed ftands in midft of his fmart. So stood Sir Scudamore, when this he heard, Ne word he had to fpeake for great difmay, But looked on Glance grim, who wore afeard Of outrage for the words, which fhe heard say, Albe virtue fhe wist them by affay. But Blandamour, whenas he did efpy His change of cheare, that anguifh did bewray, He wox full blyth, as he had got thereby, And gan thereat to triumph without victory. Lo recreant, fayd he, the fruitlefle end Of thy vaine boast, and fpoile of love misgotten, Whereby the name of knighthood thou doft fhend, And all true lovers with difhonour blotten: All things not rooted well will foone be rotten. Fie, fie, falfe knight, then false Duessa cryde, Unworthy life that love with guile haft godden: Be thou, wherever thou do go or ride, Loathed of ladies all, and of all knights defyde. But Scudamore for paffing great defpight Stayd not to answer, fcarcely did refraine, But that in all thofe knights and ladies fight He for revenge had guiltlefle Glauce flaine. But being paft, he thus began amaine: Falfe traytor Squire, falfe Squire, of falfeft knight, Why doth mine hand from thine avenge abftaine, Whofe lord hath done my love this foule defpight? Why do I not it wreake on thee now in my might? Discourteous, disloyal Britomart, Untrue to God, and unto man unjuft, What vengeance due can equall thy defert, That hast with fhamefull spot of finfull lust Defiled the pledge committed to thy truft? Let ugly fhame and endlefle infamy Colour thy name with foule reproaches rust, Yet thou, falfe Squire, his fault fhall deare aby, And with thy punifhment his penance fhalt fupply. The aged dame him feeing fo enraged, Was dead with feare, natheleffe as need requird, His flaming fury fought to have affwaged With fober words, that fufferance defir'd, Till time the triall of her truth expir'd, And evermore fought Britomart to cleare: But he the more with furious rage was fir'd, And thrice his hand to kill her did upreare, And thrice he drew it backe, so did at last forbeare. End of Canto I, Book 4. The Legend of Cambel and Telamond.